Hello guys, this is Miss Brito here. Today you guys are going to learn about prisms and how to find the surface area of any prism. Um, so if you read the introduction to the class to today's objective, you should know what a prism is. And just a quick recap, a prism is just going to be a three-dimensional shape which consists of length, width, and height. So it's a little different than what we've been dealing with lately or in the past. Prior to today, we were just dealing with two-dimensional surfaces or shapes, which an example would be just a triangle or a polygon or a circle. Anything that we've been dealing with up until today was a two-dimensional shape. But today you're going to see a three-dimensional shape. And I have an example just to give you a quick demonstration of something that is a three-dimensional shape. Like right here, I have a triangular prism. And we usually, and of course this is a three-dimensional, okay, there's going to be a height, a length, and a width for this one. And if I wanted to find the surface area of any prism, there's going to be a formula for it. And I'll go over the formula when we're going over the steps. Just know that in this example, I have a right triangular prism. We name the prisms based on their bases. So because there's triangles and the bases are always going to be two congruent shapes, because there's two triangles here. This shape right here, we call it a triangular prism. On my example here is going to be a right triangular prism. So again, we name it based on the base. And if the base is, or the bases are clearly two congruent right triangles, then we call this one a regular triangular prism. And then the other sides of it, which in this case is going to be three other sides, are called lateral faces. So again, these is the bases, these are the bases, and then everything else is a lateral face. These one, there's 1, 2, 3 faces, and then these we call the edges or the edge of my prism. These are edges. Another key point I want to make before we move on and start the problem is that it doesn't matter how I stand or how I place the prism. The bases will always be two congruent bases, and you can identify even if it's standing a certain way. What I mean by that is basically, even if I put the shape this way, these two are still my shapes. I'm sorry, my bases. If I stand it this way, it is standing on its base. These are still my bases. If I stand it this way, these are still my bases. So always identify your base. And then sometimes you have to rotate it with your brain somehow just to see what the base should be. And it should always be two of them, and they're always congruent. So moving on to how to do this problem. Here we have a right triangular prism. How do we find the area or surface area? The surface area is going to be the area of the entire shape, including its base and all the faces. Well, let's follow the steps. To identify, the first thing you're going to do is identify the shape of the base. The shape of the base is a right triangle and it's two bases. Okay, so I already identify my base. It's very important so that you don't confuse it with a face. And then I will identify the lateral faces shapes. In this case, I have three lateral shapes, and they're all rectangles. So the lateral face shape is a rectangle, and not necessarily three congruent ones, okay? But I know I'm dealing with rectangles. Then I'm going to find the lateral area, which is the area of all the faces combined. Well, there's a formula for that. You don't have to always use the formula, but I like to stick to the formula. The lateral area is going to be the perimeter of the base, just one base, times the height. Don't forget that that perimeter has to be the perimeter of the base, just one base. So let's start with step number 3 because we already identify our shapes. I'm going to start with L equals pH. So the lateral area again is going to be the perimeter of my base. And what is the perimeter of the base? Well, I see I have a 7 and a 24, and I do not have this here. Okay, the perimeter, remember, is the sum of all the sides, and I'm only doing it for one base. So I ask myself, okay, what do I need to do in order to find that perimeter? Well, you need the hypotenuse, clearly, because that's a right triangle. So I will do the Pythagorean theorem. In this case, I have two sides, I just need the third one. So it's going to be 7 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. And I'm going to put all that in the calculator real quick. So when I put it in the calculator, 7 times 7 is 49, plus 24 times 24, 576, c squared, 576 plus 49, 625, 625, and then the square root of that, find c. The square root of 625 is going to be 25. So c is 25. So now that I found this side right here, which is a 25, now I can find that P right here, okay, which is the perimeter of just one base. And the perimeter is going to be 25 plus 7 plus 24. 25 plus 7 plus 24, that is 56 times the height. And be careful with your height, because the height has to always be perpendicular. Sometimes your height is obvious, but sometimes you have to find it. In this case, my height is perpendicular. Remember, these are my bases, right? Imagine it was like this. So if I stand it, or I put it on the base does not contain the height. Okay, the height is going to be one of those edges. Okay, that's and only if it's perpendicular. Okay, so be careful. Clearly, if I stand this, the perpendicular edge will be this one, which is congruent to this one, 28. Okay, so that is 28, 28, and this one is also 28, but this is my height. Okay, and these are the bases, this is your height. So 56 times 28. So I have L equals 56 times 28. I'm going to put that in the calculator. 56 times 28. That is 1,568. 1,568. Okay, I am done with step 3. Now let's do step 4, which is find the area of the base. And the area of the base is going to be simple. It's just a triangle, 2-dimensional. I'm just looking at the 2-dimensional triangle there. So that is base times the height, which is perpendicular. Don't forget that. It is not 25. The height is 24, right triangles. 7 times 24. 7 times 24 divided by 2. So the area of a right triangle is base times height divided by 2. 7 times 24 divided by 2, that's 84. And now finally I'm going to find the surface area, which is all my areas combined. But there is a formula here. Okay, so let's stick to the formula. So it's going to be the lateral area that I already found, which is 1,568, plus 2 times the base area, because it's 2 bases, right? So it makes sense. 2 times 84. So I have 2 times 84, 168, plus 1,568. That is 1,736. Shoot me a text or an email if you have any questions, and good luck with your worksheet.